Alright, so I know everybody's ready to travel and everybody's pretty much under the assumption that travel is going to be pretty cheap. Everybody thinks everybody's going to be so scared to get on planes and get in hotels that plane fare is going to be cheap and hotel prices are going to be super cheap. But I don't think that's going to be the case, and I think these prices are going to be pretty high. And I know I always seem like I'm the person that's like, oh, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. And I don't. But I just got to keep it real with you guys. Prices are probably still going to be pretty high. In fact, they may be higher than they were before. Let's talk about it. So baby, won't you braid my hair? Come on and braid my hair. Back in my hood, feeling good. I'm out. I'm pretty much probably going to keep singing in the intros of my videos until either A, I run out of songs that I want to sing, or B, I get enough people telling me they don't really like it. But until that happens, that's what I'll be doing. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Mike's Travels and Cents, where I go over points and travel strategies, and more importantly, how not to go broke while enjoying it all. If that sounds good to you, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss future content like this. And if you found some value in this video, drop me a like to let me know. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Alright, so as you can pick up from the intro of this video, this is going to be a little bit more travel in the travels and cents kind of expertise, if you want to call me an expert. But yeah, this is going to be more travel focused. But before I actually get into the topic, I do want to say I have a big news announcement at the end of the video, as well as my new subscriber shout out, which I have quite a few, fortunately, and I'm very appreciative of you guys. So stick around for the end for that big news and the subscriber shout out. As I mentioned in the title of the video, I don't think travel is going to be as cheap or as fruitful as a lot of people are expecting, especially those that have maybe been saving a lot of points and think they're going to be able to score some really nice business or first class seats. I don't think that's going to be the case, especially not for the cheap. What you've got to understand is that the travel industry is an industry, and like any business, the golden rule, which demystifies everything when it comes to business, is supply and demand. And that's right, even the travel industry is beholden to supply and demand. When supply is too high, prices have to go down. And when demand is too high, prices have to go up. So that's pretty much what any business is beholden to in order to make money. That's the sweet science of business. And it's looking at this balance of supply and demand, specifically at the travel industry, which has led me to my conclusion that travel is going to be pretty freaking expensive, more specifically air travel. And I'm going to break this down first by looking at the supply side of this equation and then looking at the demand side. So I think by breaking it down that way, it'll be a little bit more clear on why I think prices are going to be pretty high when we get through this whole thing. So as far as supply goes, first we're going to talk about the actual supply of aircraft. And I don't know if you've been keeping up with this kind of stuff, but these commercial airlines have been pretty much retiring a lot of these aircraft, especially like 747s. They are practically extinct at this point, and that's going to create a whole nother thing with like recycling these planes and anything. But focusing on this topic, as far as supply goes, if there's less aircraft for commercial airlines to use to fly passengers, that means supply is starting to dwindle. And as I said earlier, when supply is too low, prices have to go up. Looking a bit more into this, and not only have airlines been retiring these aircraft, but they've also been cutting a lot of routes. So again, not only are there less aircraft for passengers to fly on, but there's less ways for them to get to their destination, which again means more people are going to have to fight over a smaller number of routes. So that's a smaller supply of aircraft, and that's a smaller supply of routes. So that's two things dinging supply already. Next up, and we have what's kind of up in the air and not exactly affecting every airline, but still something to look out for, is this whole thing over reserving middle seats on commercial airlines. So right now, Delta is the only one kind of holding fast on this, and I think it's only up until September as of the last time I've seen them post anything about it, and that was on their like official Twitter page. But yeah, so right now middle seats are kind of a hot topic of whether they should be blocked off, and don't be surprised if the government just straight up comes out and says, yeah, commercial airliners will have to block off middle seats. Normally this probably wouldn't even be something you'd have to consider, but considering the government just gave these airline companies a bunch of money for a bailout, they're kind of in a position to leverage. That's debatable, I guess.
Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
But yeah, if one of these middle seats has to be blocked off, on every side of the aisle for all these aircraft, that's a lot less seats per aircraft. And not only is that going to put the squeeze on these airline companies for money, because that's a lot of seats that they now can't charge people for, but that's also going to, again, drop the supply of seats for all the airlines. And speaking of squeeze, yes, a lot of these airlines are squeezed for cash, as in it's drying up. The travel industry is slowly making a return, but it's not enough. The operating cost of an airline company is very, very high. Though it may not be a real possibility, especially in the United States, because we do have some companies are too big to fail kind of thing, but it's still something to keep an eye out on. There's a chance some airline company may go out of business. And again, since we're talking about supply, if there's that many less aircraft in the air because that company goes out of business, that means there's that fewer aircraft that people have the option to fly on, which again, as supply goes down, prices go up. So now looking at the other side of this equation, demand, and I'd say demand for travel is not as low as people probably thought it would be, especially getting closer to the holiday season. And demand is actually, I'd say, pretty high, because people barely can freaking listen to the whole social distancing as it is. And we've seen people crowding on beaches, going to bars, and sitting in restaurants. And yeah, people are not, there's enough people that don't care about social distancing to really, I think, kind of kick back up the travel industry enough to the point where once you see enough people are doing it, there'll be a whole bunch of people traveling again. And I think here the holiday season will actually be the biggest test of this theory of mine, because I think once you hit the major holidays, we just finished 4th of July and there was already an increase in travel in certain areas. But I think once we hit the major holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving, I think that's really where we're going to see a huge spike in travel, because I think people are just going to be fed up with staying at home. And that's going to be the kind of, the kick to get this travel stuff jumping again. And this last thing I'll throw into demand, which is kind of a supply and kind of a demand thing, is the fact that Europe has banned the United States from traveling. Not America, which I think this is becoming like a peeve of mine. Not America, the United States. So Canada, if you're a Canadian, you can still go to Europe. But us people in the United States, we can't travel to Europe right now. So that's that many more routes that are unavailable to us to travel. So that means, again, demand is increasing and there's a lot less supply for us to make that same amount of travel. So yeah, those are both sides of the equation. And that's why I really think prices are gonna go way, way up, because I see an increasing demand on an increasingly smaller amount of aircraft available to these commercial airlines as they're retiring aircraft, and a significantly smaller number of routes available to actually travel on, as these airline companies have begun cutting routes and United States citizens are banned from traveling to certain countries, which means there's that much more competition for that fewer amount of routes, which, as I said in the beginning, when supply is too high, prices go down. But when demand is too high and supply is low, prices go up. And so that's what I think we're going to see with airline travel in the future. And this could be a thing going into 2021, even 2022, because the airline industry with, aircraft is not something you can just start flipping switches and kind of, catch back up to the economy's demands. It's not that fast, and we could still have high prices into 2022, really. This whole pricing thing will be a little bit frustrating to me, especially because it means it'll probably be that much more difficult for me and my wife to redo our failed trip to Japan that we were actually planning for 2020 this past March, but due to the pandemic we couldn't go on. So hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's not super difficult for us to get basically make this an award vacation like we were trying to do originally, but I could definitely see us hitting some difficulties with our trip to Japan. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on what the travel industry, specifically air travel, are going to look like in the future as far as prices go. And yeah, there's not really much that we as individuals can do about it except for just look out for good deals as they come, spend your money and your points wisely, and just brace yourself. But that's where I'm gonna wrap up this video. But I do have big news, as I said at the beginning of the video. But first, we're gonna get into the subscriber shout out, and I'd like to shout out Frank Manning, Look at Her 100, Matthew DeLisley. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to butcher anybody's YouTube names. Frank Soros J and Jeremy Gay. Thank you all for subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate you deciding to subscribe to the channel and keep up with content of mine. I'm gonna continue to try and make this channel better and give you guys quality content. So yeah, hopefully I'll live up to it, and thanks for subscribing. But that's not all I wanted to announce. First up, my next two videos, so this video and the one that follows it, will kind of be in this setting. But ideally, I don't want to make any promises because I don't want to get into a habit of saying things are going to happen and they don't. But anyway, the videos after this one and the next one, they should be filmed in a very special location. I decided since I can't travel, I should bring you guys somewhere nice and kind of give it a nice backdrop. So that'll be cool. It'll be a nice filming location. I think you guys will really like it. I'll try and incorporate it into the video as best as I can. On top of that, the other news I have to announce is that I am going to be releasing a Points and Miles Academy video series on this channel where I'm going to go through all the basics of points and miles and credit cards, because I know when I started this channel, I pretty much just jumped into the nitty gritty and didn't really go over the basics things. And that's really because new YouTuber, you kind of have to ride a wave and catch views as you can. It's really difficult to try and grow your channel with super original content unless you're really, really good. And I'm not there yet. So, but yeah, I'm gonna be releasing a probably 5-part video series shortly after. I'm still building up the series. So if you all want to see anything specifically in this series, feel free to drop that in the comment section below, and I'll definitely do my best to incorporate it into the video series. And yeah, so those are the announcements. That's all I had to say. And as always, the only thing more valuable than your points is your money, and the only thing more valuable than your money is your time. But until next time, peace.